What if the ultimate battle between good and evil wasn't a war at all? What if it was actually a court case? In this explainer, we're going to dive into a really fascinating theological argument. It basically puts God's entire character on trial. And the evidence that gets presented, well, it's something absolutely no one saw coming.
Okay, so to really get our heads around this whole idea, I want you to picture a cosmic court case. Seriously, forget the whole battlefield thing for a minute. The real stage for this ultimate conflict between good and evil, it's a courtroom. And the one in the dock is God himself.
Right, so this whole drama plays out in what's called the courtroom of the cosmos. And in this courtroom, God's character is literally being judged by all of creation. This isn't a trial of might, who's stronger. Nope, this is a trial of morality.
And of course, any trial has to start with an indictment, right? A charge. And in this cosmic case, the charge that was leveled against God, wow, it was profound. It struck right at the very heart of his right to rule.
So, the charge, which was brought by the accuser, Lucifer, was basically this: God isn't good. He claimed God's law was selfish, that God was just a tyrant, jealously hoarding all the power for himself. Now, this wasn't some minor complaint. This was a fundamental challenge, questioning the entire basis of God's authority and his very character. And you can see how this creates a huge dilemma for God, right? A divine dilemma. Just think about it for a second. If God simply used his infinite power to just crush the rebellion, well, wouldn't that kind of prove the accuser's point? It would look exactly like what a tyrant would do. So here's the crucial point. A totally different strategy was needed. God couldn't win this thing by force. The argument had to be won with evidence. He needed a plan, a really audacious, unassailable plan that would submit his own character to the most rigorous, the most undeniable test you could possibly imagine.
All right, so how was God going to present his evidence? Well, the defense was about to call its key witness, and this witness was a living, breathing one. And here's the masterstroke of the whole plan: the incarnation. God's plan was to present himself as the evidence. In the person of Jesus, the very character of God was poured into this vulnerable human form. And here's the key: he was intentionally stripped of all that divine power and invulnerability just to make sure the test was completely and totally fair. Now, scripture is used to build this case. Here in the book of Hebrews, the phrase exact representation is so important. Think of it like the perfect impression left by a seal that's been stamped into hot wax. It's not just a resemblance, it's a perfect copy of the original's character. And Jesus himself actually confirms this identity. When his followers ask him, "Hey, show us the Father," his response is super direct. "Anyone who has seen me has seen the Father." And just like that, the evidence was officially submitted to the court. So now, with God's own character present in human form, the cross-examination could begin. The entire life of Jesus became the central stage for this cosmic trial of God's character. And the accuser's strategy? It was clear, and it was relentless. The goal was to subject this human version of God to the absolute worst pain, the worst injustice, the worst evil imaginable. See, all it would take was provoking one single moment of selfish anger, just one curse of despair, and that would be enough to prove that evil did in fact live in the heart of God. But under the most intense pressure you can fathom, the character held. Every single test was met with a divine response, even from a place of total human weakness. Hatred was met with love. Betrayal met with forgiveness. And unspeakable injustice was met with this perfect, unwavering trust. So this sinless life, it delivered this powerful, let's call it an interim verdict for the whole cosmic jury to see. After a lifetime of the absolute harshest examination, it was clear. There was no evil to be found in God's character. Why? Because there was simply no evil there to begin with. But wait, the trial wasn't over yet. Oh no, the prosecution had one final ultimate test. This was their last-ditch effort to break the will of God and finally win the case. And this would be the final and maybe the most shocking piece of evidence submitted in the entire cosmic trial. It was designed to be the ultimate display of suffering and injustice. The cross. You see, the crucifixion wasn't God's defeat. Not at all. It was the climatic conclusion of the defense's entire case. It was the ultimate demonstration of character. And this, right here, is the core of the whole argument.
The very being who was accused of being a selfish tyrant allowed himself to be brutalized and killed to save the very creatures who were doing it to him. It was the ultimate act of self-giving love, the complete, total, polar opposite of the character he was accused of possessing. And with this final act, the accusation was silenced forever. Not with a big roar of power, but with an absolutely irrefutable demonstration of a good and loving heart. God defeated the accuser simply by proving he was a liar.
And so, we arrive at this incredibly powerful conclusion. The life and death of Jesus stands as the eternal proof that the God who rules the universe is, and has always been, completely good. The case is closed. So the only question that's left is, what does this verdict mean for us?